Here. Okay, we are on the 138. Topic tonight is making tents, which is somewhat practical, as you know, from like umbrellas and awnings, and we're going to see even hats could be a problem. Wearing a hat with a wide brim, and we'll also end with a very beautiful agadah that we'll get to. Okay, so the Mishnah that we began a new perek yesterday with this Mishnah regarding a strainer. It's a piece of cloth that you hang from a bar and you put a barrel underneath and you put wine inside, and then that would strain the wine. And so we saw that you're not allowed to hang it up on Shabbat. According to the Be'eli Eliezer, you can hang it up on Yom Tov. The problem of hanging it up seems to be that you're making a tent. You're not sleeping under it or using it as a tent, but you're still taking a piece of cloth and stretching it over something. So that's kind of like a tent. So that's how we got to this topic. And so we're at the bottom here, and we say, Hachamim Omerim, the sages say that this is making a tent. You're not allowed to hang this up, not on Shabbat and not on Yom Tov, according to Hachamim. The question is, what if someone did? They hung up a strainer like this. What would be the consequences? In other words, is it Doraita? Is it Midrabanan? Amar Rav Yosef Tala Hayab Hatat. Yes, if he does it by mistake, he has to bring a Hatat. In other words, it's a Midoraita. If he did it on purpose, it would be Karet or Sekila. Amar Abaye Lema'ata Tela Kuza Besichta Achina Med Mihayev. Okay, this seems very extreme, very stringent for such a thing. And so he asks rhetorically, if I put a jug and hang it on a peg, so also is that you're going to say that's making a tent, and I have to bring a chayav chatat for doing that? I mean, this is not the kind of thing that's like making a tent. Doesn't seem that this should be so stringent. So Abaye disagrees and says, in fact, hanging up the strain is only a sumit rabbanan because of, and this is a very important concept that this has a lot of consequences, but called uvdin dechol, doing something the way that you do it during the week. So although there's no precise melacha that's being done here, this is a kind of weekday activity that takes away from the sanctity of Shabbat in putting up a strainer. And so, as you can imagine, this is a kind of loose category. And so what would it apply to? What won't it apply to? So it's good to look out for it. But this is one of the sources for this concept. Okay. Mankit Abaye Chumre Matnita. Since we just mentioned Abaye, Abaye had a series of teachings regarding tents. And these are all found throughout different baraitot. Abaye collected all of these, or the chomed, all of this material about tents and put them in place. I think this is really interesting just in terms of transmission. This teaching style good is like something that you stretch. So a wine skin or a mishameret is what we just talked about, a strainer. Kila, a canopy bed. We're going to talk about that a lot. Bechise galin, and a folding chair. It's a kind of folding chair that detaches, and then you have to reassemble it. Lo yaseh. All these things you're not allowed to hang them, put them up, put them together on Shabbat. Imasa patura balasur, but it's only midrabanan. And so included here is the one that he just mentioned, the strainer. And so this would seem to be not technically building or making a tent, but uvdin dechol. Imasa patur. Okay. Ahole keba. If you make a permanent tent, right, a kind of maybe a camping tent or maybe like an army tent, so that would be that is building. Moving it, that's okay. It's already, it's already there. You're not building it. You're just, maybe changing its position. So that's okay. Kiseh is a regular chair, kind of folding chair, maybe like our folding chairs. They're already assembled, and so you're just stretching it out or that's okay. Sorry, Tiraskal is holding with a piece of leather that people would use as a toilet. That is totally fine to use. Okay, by the way, picture here, we have a picture of Roman toilets. These are not folding toilets. I'm not sure why they put this picture here, but it still is interesting, right? There was just holes in this bench. Some people complain about public toilets today. The dividers don't really go down to the ground. I don't have to see each other's feet, and dividers kind of have holes in them, but now you look at this and you feel lucky about our own dividers because they had none at all. But consequences. What kind of isur is this? Amar Rav Kahana Shimer Hayab Hatat. Rav Kahana says Hayab Midoraita, putting the wine into the strainer. Okay. Matkif la Rav Sheshat Nika Mided Rabbanan Mechaybe Hatat. Rabbi Eliezer Shaled Chatechila. Rav Sheshat asks about this in the Mishnah. Remember, there was a machloket. Rabbi Eliezer says that you're allowed to use the strainer. It's totally allowed. Even on Shabbat, and Chachamim said you can't. And so what you have according to this is, according to Rav Kahana, is that one opinion Chachamim says Chayab Midoraita, and the Eliezer says allowed altogether. So you have the two extreme positions, and it's unusual to have such extreme positions, right? We ever find the case where one says Asur Midoraita and one says Mutar. Usually the machloket is closer. One says Rabbanan and one says something else. So could this really be Matkif la Rav Yosef? We have a Matkif in a row. Another objection, a city of gold. This was a decorative tiara that women would wear with, a diagram of a city, of Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, for example. And Rabbi Meir Mechayeb Hatat, Rabbi Eliezer Shareh Lechatechila. And you have the two extremes. Again, Rabbi Eliezer says is Mekel here. Says a woman is allowed to wear it out into the street. Rabbi Meir says no, it's carrying. So there you go. So let's see the source. Maihi, what's the source? Here's the full baraita d'Tanya. Lo teseh isha be'ir shel zahav. Im yasa hayevet hatat. She cannot wear it. Wearing it is carrying. Why would you say it's carrying? Isn't it jewelry? We saw before that this thing is so big. Considered a weight. You have two extremes. One in the middle kind of makes them less extreme, and so that's different from our case where you have no middle position, and that's more unusual. Okay, but be that as it may, now according to the opinion that does say that this is asur mideoraita, what do we what melacha in particular is the person violating? In other words, if there are witnesses there and the witnesses were warning him, hey, it's Shabbat, this is chayav mitah, the witnesses have to tell him which particular melacha he's violating. So putting this wine in the strainer, which melacha is it? Raba amar mishum bored, Bezerah amar mishum meraked. So it's either selecting, right, separating good from bad, or sifting. Let's see their arguments. Amada Bakivate Didi Mistabera says, my opinion makes more sense. Ma darko shel borer notel ochel maniach pesolet, afacha name notel et haochel umaniach et hapesolet. What is borer? What is separating? You take the food that's good and you leave the garbage. So too here, we're taking the food, the good wine that will come down and drip down into the barrel, and we are leaving the dregs that will stay in the strainer. So you see, it's borer. Says, no, my opinion makes more sense. Interesting, they're using sevara. This is just based on reason. They're trying to make an analogy, what it's more similar to. Says mine is more similar because when you're sifting, you put flour into a sifter, and then the rocks and big pieces stay on top, and the good flour goes down. So too here, the bad stuff stays up in the strainer, and the good wine goes down. That's more similar to than borer, which is usually that you're picking out the bad from the good. That's different. Okay, so Bizera seems to make more sense. Taner Rami Bar Yecheskel. Okay, now new case. Rami Bar Yecheskel is a very important principle. Talit kefula lo yaseh vim asa patur aval asur. Haya karuch lehachut o meshicha mutar lintota lehatechila. Okay, if you take a cloth and you can fold it over a frame, you should not do that on Shabbat because you're creating a tent. You're making a kind of canopy. However, if it was already tied to the frame and you're simply extending it over the rest of the frame, then that's permitted to do. Okay, this is extremely important because this really happens all the time. If you have a baby carriage, the baby carriage has an awning. So are you allowed to open it up? The answer according to this is yes, because it's already there, it's already attached to the frame, and now you're just making the frame bigger. Or you have an awning of a house, right? It's attached to the house, and you crank it and it opens up or closes. That also is allowed. Nowadays, la halacha, we say that it's allowed as long as, even when it's closed, it has a tefach. As long as there's 3 inches there, so it's already a tent and you're just making the tent bigger. Here, Rami Bar Yecheskel doesn't say that explicitly. His point is more that it's attached. So anyway, we would require also that it not only be attached, but also already have a tefach. However, an umbrella, which is not attached to anything, is no good, because then you're just taking the umbrella and you're lifting it up and opening it, and so that's not pre-attached to a frame. So that would be different. Okay, so that's his principle. What about a canopy? So when Rav Kana asked this to Rav, Rav said not only is a canopy not allowed, even a bed is not allowed. You can't make a bed. And then another time they asked him, what do you think about a bed? He says not only is a bed allowed, even a canopy is allowed. That seems contradictory. You're not confused enough yet. There's another one. Kila umita mahu. One time they asked him about both a kila and a mita. What about both of these things? And he said, kila asura umita muteret. He said, only the canopy is prohibited, but the bed is allowed. Okay, so now we're really confused because he said 3 different things. So what's going on? How do we resolve all this? Well, okay, it's no problem. Each one he was talking about a different case. When he said you can't make a bed, it's a type of folding bed that these Carmanians, they were travelers, and they would take this bed and it has to be assembled. And so they're really putting together a bed and building it. And so that's why he said it's not allowed. And when he said that kila is allowed, a canopy is allowed, it was like Rami Bar Yecheskel, who we just saw, where it was already attached. The cloth was attached to the frame, and he's just extending it. That's what he was talking about. And his third thing, when he says kila is not good and mita is muteret, that's like a normal bed and a regular a canopy that we usually see. Most of the time, a bed is already assembled, and all you have to do is, lay it out and move it, and that's okay. Especially even a bed, I think of like a Murphy bed, right? Even when it's folded up, it takes up space. It takes up tefach, and so now you're just making it bigger. You're just moving it around. That's a regular bed is fine. However, a canopy usually is not attached, but you're actually putting the cloth over the frame, and that is constructing a tent. And so now we figured out all the cases. Good. Amar Rav Yosef, Hazena lehu lechile debe Rav Huna beurta negidu mesafra havita ramya. So Rav Yosef says, one time I went and I saw in the house of Rav Huna, I had these canopy beds, and it was Shabbat, and on Friday night, I saw that the canopy was spread out, but then in the morning, I saw that they had taken it apart. And so apparently, in Rav Huna's house, they permitted taking apart, and therefore probably also putting together a canopy, but maybe it was some kind of canopy that was permitted, maybe it was pre-attached or something like that. Amarav mishum Rabbi Chiya, vilon mutal litoto mutal leforko. A vilon, the curtain. In other words, it goes straight up and down. That is allowed. You're allowed to pull it down, and you're allowed to put it back up. It's not taking up any space horizontally, so therefore it's not a tent, right? It's only vertical. Okay, that's good. That's a good important principle. And now we're going to see something that's similar to this. Amar Shemuel mishum Rabbi Chiya, kilat chatanim mutal lintota umutal leforka. This a special bridegroom's canopy. That's some kind of special thing that the groom would use for the wedding night. It's some kind of maybe ceremonial type of bed, and apparently it had a very high canopy that came to a point. And he says this kind is permitted. You can make this on Shabbat and undo it. A lot of times people would get married like on Friday, and then they would celebrate on Friday night. We don't have Friday weddings much, but okay, they used to. So you're allowed to put this together and take it apart. However, there are a few conditions. Amar Rav Sheshat bar Bered Rav Idi. La amaran ela she'en begaga tefach. Avayesh begaga tefach asura. You're only allowed to make this kind of bed if the top comes to a point. But if there's a tefach, 3 inches of flat surface, horizontal surface on the top, then that's already a tent, a regular tent, and that would not be allowed. And even even if the top comes to a point, it still would not be allowed to make this kind of thing. And even so, you have to make sure that within the first 3 tefachim from the top, going down, it doesn't extend horizontally more than a tefach. Right? In other words, the slope, right, has to be less than 60% or whatever. You have to calculate it, right? So it has to go down more than 3 tefachim and not extend out 1 tefach. And furthermore, and it can't extend at all, even once it gets to the bottom, it can't extend outwards more than a tefach on each side. So in other words, the whole bed can only be 2 tefach wide, which is not very big. It's only 6 inches. Nobody could sleep in 6 inches. What use would this would that be if if the canopy is so thin? So one possibility is that this is not really a useful bed, but rather a decorative ceremonial bed that was placed in the room with the groom. Another option that Ashi says elsewhere is perhaps you could make multiple of these, right? You make a lot of small canopies. Each one of them fulfills all these requirements, that it comes to a point and doesn't go and is only a tefach wide. And so then you could make this nice fancy design, and that would be okay. Okay, and yet in one last requirement, it also cannot extend past the bottom of the bed more than a tefach. Why? Because then you're creating a wall, right? If the canopy extends down, then this is a wall, and the bottom of the bed is really the top of a tent. right? By creating a wall, you're actually making the bed itself into the top of a tent, and so you can't drape it over either. Which leads to another question: what about a tablecloth over a table, right? Usually we put a tablecloth and it drapes over. So is that a problem with making a tent? Well, everybody puts tablecloths on, so obviously not. And I guess our goal is to cover the table. We're not really interested in the draping part, so it would be different than this case. Okay. Rav Sheshet, who is just talking in the name of Rabbi D, he adds another halacha, a different halacha. He says this kind of felt hat, he's probably pointing to his hat that he was wearing, is permitted on Shabbat, right? Even though it has a brim, it's still okay. And now we ask about him. Hold on, we have a baraita, which is a higher level of authority, and it says sina asur. You're not allowed to wear a felt hat like this. So what do we do about this? La kashya hadit betefach hadelet be tefach. It depends how big the brim is. If the brim is 3 tefachim wide or more, then it's a problem of the tent. If it's less than that, then it's okay. I don't know, a typical baseball cap, right? If you wear a baseball cap, is that 3 inches long? Not sure. Okay.
I think it's longer. But the brim of the cap?
Yeah, the brim outwards from the, right? Okay.
From the front.
Yeah. Or how about a strimal? Some of them could be really big. Yeah, a nice big sombrero, those could be a problem. Okay, and this is a case where if you make a tefach a bigger, there's a machloket. Is it 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 4 inches? So if a lot of people want to be lenient on things, then they use a shorter amount. But in this case, if you want to be mekel, you need a bigger amount. So you could wear these different types of hats. Okay, but we're not done yet with the hats. We have another complication. Hold on. Let's say I'm wearing a cloak, and like over your head, like when people put a talit over their head, and it's sticking out in front of your head more than a tefach, right? You have maybe it's very sunny, and you leave it dangling over your head, and it could be more than a tefach. Is that a problem? People walk around like with a hood. Ella, and that's no problem. Ella la kashya de mihadek, de la mihadek. It depends. There's 2 interpretations. One is it depends on if it's stiff or loose. If it's stiff like a brim of a hat, then it's a problem. But if it's not stiff like a piece of clothing, then it's okay. Why? What's the difference? Well, if it's stiff, then a wind will come and knock it off. And then you have a problem of you're going to run after it and going to go carry. Otherwise, it's okay. The later commentaries say, well, is he really going to carry? It depends if he has another. Is he wearing a kippah under it or not? If he's not wearing kippah, then for sure he picks it up, he's going to put it on because he doesn't want to walk without a kippah. So maybe it's better not to wear a kippah. Okay, this gets into a whole discussion about that. But look, this really could be a problem. A lot of times people's hats fly off. Okay, another interpretation of this is mihadek means is it tightly on or not tightly on? If the hat is tightly on, then it won't blow off. And otherwise, if it's loose, then it will blow off, and then that's not good. Okay, the first one, if it's loose or not, if it's thick or not, that might also relate to it being a tent. If it's stiff, then it's kind of like a tent. If it's floppy, then it's not so much like a tent. Okay, so we have different interpretations. In any case, this is, I don't know, everybody wears hats, but technically, if the hat is stiff, and especially if it's not on tight and it's 3 inches wide, that would definitely be a problem. If it's missing one of those, then you can rely on one interpretation or the other to wear a hat. All right, good. So now, Shalach le Rami bar Yechezkel Rav Huna. Okay, we're going to end with this series of teachings. They sent to Rav Huna, Emalan, easy. Hanach mili de maliata da martlan mishemeh derav tater b'Shabbat v'chada b'Torah. So they send a messenger. This is actually very important. The fact that they send a messenger Rabbi Bechel to Rav Huna. So they're not together. It's not a live conversation. And they say in the message, tell us, easy, meaning either my friend or please, tell us those words, those fine words that you told us in the name of Rav. Two of them were regarding the laws of Shabbat, and one of them was regarding the issue of Torah. So in other words, Rav Huna once said these statements in the name of Rav, and they forgot the details of what they were. So they sent a messenger, please send us back. So he does, shalach le. I wonder when this messenger, did he say it orally or did he write it down? Usually when you say a messenger, you usually assume it's a letter, right, that he wrote down. And if that's true, then this is an example of writing down Torah Shebe'al Peh, right? And this might be a case where the rabbis, who, although they usually memorized everything, did write some things down when they had to send it one place or another. And I think there's a proof to the fact that they wrote it down here, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, Hadetanya. The number one issue regarding Shabbat is this. God bechisna utad tota b'Shabbat. We mentioned this God thing before. God is like gud asik, something that extends, and kis is a wineskin. So you want to take a wineskin and suspend it by its straps. Probably overnight, you'd want to suspend it so that animals don't get it or to keep it cool. And can you do that on Shabbat? Because you're taking the skin and spreading it. It might be like making a tent. So the Baraita says it's allowed. Rav, and this is what he's Rav Huna is reporting in the name of Rav, says, Lo shenu ela b'shnei b'nei adam, aval b'adam echad asur. He's adding a chumrah. Two people can go and spread it out over the pegs, but one person cannot, because when one person does it, he has to go to one side and kind of tie it good so that he can go to the other side, and so he's making more of a tent. Whereas two people just put it on quickly over the two sides, and that's not like a tent. Okay, Abaye just adds another point here regarding the same topic. Even if you have 10 people and you're making this canopy over a bed, even 10 people is not good, because although you're doing it quickly and everybody's doing a little piece, for sure someone somewhere is going to be stretching it out. Okay, second topic regarding Shabbat that I've taught. The Braita said that if you have an oven and one of the legs of the oven came off, you're still allowed to move the oven. Because it's still usable, so you don't say it's mukseh. However, if two of the legs fell off, then the oven is not usable anymore, and then it's mukseh. Rav Amar, afilu chad nameh asur, yazara shema yitka. And Rav is also adds a chumrah here. Even if one fell off, still it's not a good idea to move it, because when you come and move it, then you're going to want to fix the leg that broke, and that will be building or maker or batish. And Torah, this is the last one, and this leads into a beautiful Agadah. Tamar Rav, Atidah Torah shetishachach mi Yisrael, shene'emar. By the way, in those two cases, Rav seems to be arguing against the Baraita, which he can, because Rav is a first generation Amorah, and sometimes he's considered like a Tana, so Tanahu Palik. Or you could say he's not arguing with the Baraitot, he's just adding an interpretation, a limitation on it. Okay, anyway, he taught that the Torah is going to be forgotten in Israel in the future. Shene'emar, Yifla Hashem et makotecha, in the curses in the Devarim, it says, God is going to make your makot, your plagues, hifla, astonishing. Hafla'ah, what do you mean? How, and what way are the plagues going to be astonishing? Haflazo, and I don't know what this means. So I look up my concordance to see where else does that word appear. It occurs in Yeshaya, where it says, I'm going to bring astonishment upon the people, and the continuation is, and the wisdom of its wise will be lost. So you see, this is a reference to Torah. In fact, when in Sanhedrin, it talks about the Bedin, the chief justice of a Sanhedrin is called Mufla, right? Mufla, the astonishing one. So we see that this is a word that's used in other contexts also. Okay, so when it says, Ifla Hashem makotecha, it is a punishment in the future regarding wisdom. And that's where he derives that Torah will be forgotten in the future. Okay. That was his teaching. And now we'll elaborate more on it. Tanu Rabbanan, or Tenor Rabbanan. Keshenichnesu Rabbotenu lakerem beyavneh. Amiru. When the rabbis got together in Yavneh, the yeshiva there was called a kerem, like a vineyard, because they had rows and rows of benches similar to a vineyard. Still yeshiva near there called kerem beyavneh today. So this is right after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, and the rabbis, those who survived, reconvened an assembly at Yavneh to discuss how to continue the future fate of Judaism and not be lost due to the destruction by the Romans. And they said the same thing. Atidat Torah shetishachach miYisrael shenemar hinei yamim ba'im l'Hashem Elokim v'shtachti ra'a ba'aretz lo ra'a b'lechem ve'lo sama l'mayim ki im l'shmoa et divrei Hashem. They quote the pasuk in Amos that says in the future there'll be a hunger but not for food, and there'll be a thirst but not for water, but rather people will be seeking out and won't be able to find the words of God. They'll go all over north, east, west, and they won't be able to find it. So what is this referring to? What specifically are they going to be looking for? Before I get to that, I'm not sharing the whole screen. I'm sorry. Okay, this whole thing comes from a baraita. Can you see the? A second, I want to share the whole screen so you can see the source. Okay, good. This comes from Tosefta here. The Tosefta in Masechet Eduyot, very, very famous, very important Tosefta, that says when the rabbis got together at Kerem B'Yavneh, they said in the future, Torah will be lost. The people will be looking for it. It quotes the exact same Pesukim from Amos. And then it goes and says, Amru natchil mihilelu mishamai. So they said, because we're afraid Torah will be lost, let's start off recording it. And so they record. Hillel says this, Shammai says that. In other words, they agree that they're going to compose the Mishnah, basically, right? And so, there's going to be so many opinions, everything's going to get lost, no one's going to know anything. And so that's why they composed the Mishnah. Some say that they actually wrote it down at this time. And that would support what I said earlier, that this was a letter in writing, right? So that might be a hidden theme here. Although I actually think that they did not write it down in this case. When it says they composed the Mishnah, they composed it orally, but they made a set text so that everybody would memorize the same curriculum, and that would prevent it from being lost, which was a really good idea because we're still here studying Mishnah. Okay, so now we go back to this, and we make a derasha on the words of Amos. It says they're going to forget Devar Hashem. What does Devar Hashem refer to? It can refer to halacha, or Devar Hashem can refer to Zeh HaKetz. Where do we see anywhere that Devar Hashem refers to the end of days? In the beginning, Tosafot shows that in Ezra chapter 1, it says, Lechalot Devar Hashem mipi Yirmiyah. Right, the fulfillment of the word of God to Yirmiyah, and there it's referring to Cyrus the Great giving a proclamation that the Jews can come back from Babel in gathering of exiles. So that is a ketz, that's an end of day event, and it's referred to with the words Devar Hashem. So maybe that's the source. Devar Hashem could be Nebuah, prophecy in general. It's always called Devar Hashem. Okay, good. What does it mean that they're going to be roaming around looking for the word of God? אמרו עתידה אישה שתיטול כיכר שתרומה ותחזור בבתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות, תדע אם טמאה היא ואם טהורה היא ואין מבין. Okay, this is fantastic. This is a very interesting interpretation. I really like what we saw in the Tosefta, not the Peshat. The Peshat of the Midrash seems to be saying that Torah will be lost. No one will know anything. And here, it's not that no one will know anything, but rather it's just a particular detail of the law. What's law? A woman will bring a loaf of bread made from tiruma flour, right? It's supposed to be for a kohen, and has to be tahor. And she's going to go around to different batei knesiot, to midrashot, asking, what's the status? Is it tameh or is it tahor? And nobody will know. Now, the Gemara asks about this. In Torahi, v'im temeahi, what do you mean? How could she not know? It says in the pasuk, "Bejaketi be mikol ha'ochel asher yachel." So it says that any food that touches water, then it can contract impurity. If it touches something impure, then it's not allowed. So like, what was she confused about, right? And they for sure they knew Torah. They didn't forget that. Rather, it's talking about her question was not whether it's tameh or tahor, but rather what level is it? Is it a first degree or second degree tum'ah? And that's what nobody's going to know. Hold on, why wouldn't they know that? It's talking about a case where the bread was in the oven, and a dead mouse falls into the oven. So then the dead mouse makes the oven itself dishon l'tumah, and because the bread is touching the oven, it becomes second degree to it. So there you go. It's a Mishnah. I love how the Gemara is assuming that, okay, although everyone forgot everything, obviously everyone knows Torah by heart and everyone knows Mishnah by heart, right? No one's going to forget that. Okay, well, they can assume this because they already composed the Mishnah and made sure that everybody would memorize it. Okay, so rather, what is the dilemma that this woman has? It doesn't, even she would know. Everybody would know the Mishnah. Oh, here's what they were confused about. There is a question on that Mishnah. It says, how come we don't see the oven as if it's full, complete, that the sheretz in it, almost as if it takes up all the space? There is a halakha regarding ovens, even something suspended in it because it's made out of clay, even if it's not touching, the whole thing becomes, everything in it becomes tameh. So maybe we might have thought that the whole thing becomes tameh and the bread in it is a first degree, not a second degree. And over there, Rava answered, we said, no, we don't apply that principle. We don't think that the whole thing is as if it's full of tum'ah. The Tanya, Yachol Yehu Kol HaKelim Tamein Ba'avir Kli Cheres, V'domar Kol Asher B'tocho Yitma Mikol HaOchel Asher Yachel. Ochalim Tamein Ba'avir Kli Cheres, V'en Kelim Tamein Ba'avir Kli Cheres. So that if there is a utensil that's also hanging in there in the oven, the utensil does not become tameh because the pasuk says only food that's hanging in the airspace of an oven becomes tameh. So you see from that there's a special law of food. And if you consider the tumah to permeate the entire oven, then utensils also should become tameh. And since we don't say that, so therefore it's only indirect. The dead mouse makes the oven tameh as first degree, and in turn the oven makes the food tameh, which is second degree. Okay, so good. We have the answer. We know what it is, but that's what she might in the future. Someone will not know. Okay, what I think this midrash is doing is taking something that seems like a terrible thing. People will not know any Torah at all, and maybe the pshat is that this, wisdom will be forgotten altogether. And the rabbis in the Tosefta, you see, were afraid that people would forget basic things like Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, and it's reducing that curse and saying, of course they'll remember all the basic things. Just this technicality of a question one rabbi had about a Mishnah, even though it was answered, that's something that they will have doubt. I think the point is to encourage their students and us to be meticulous in remembering and analyzing all of the details, which if you're following Daf Yomi, hopefully we're doing well. Okay, last line of this baraita, of this midrash, Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Has v'shom tishach the Torah Yisrael Shemar, ki lo tishach bezero. How dare you say it'll be forgotten at all? Another pasuk says the Torah will never be forgotten. The problem is that they will not find a halacha or mishnah that is clearly stated in one place. Rather, they're going to have to go and ask a lot of people and try to figure it out. It's going to be like too much information, all confused, and that's the problem. And so that seems to be the original meaning in the Tosefta, and that's what we want to make an order and put everything according to issue, according to topic, and have all the opinions set forth. And that way it will be clear and be able to be remembered for generations. Baruch Adonai Olam, amen ve'amen.